Hello, Robin. Welcome back.
Hi, Lucas. Thanks. Glad to be
So,
here.
yeah, we had a really interesting little interview last time. So I wanted to ask another question or talk about another topic, which you are very passionate about. And it's about teaching beginners. So I think the value of teaching beginners is not always as like recognized as it probably should be. But I'll leave that up to you to explain.
So the problem is the most tango teachers are more interested in teaching tango to people who already dance tango. And that's a tiny, tiny market. We are going to suffer. Maybe not exactly this year, maybe the next year, but we're going to suffer whenever the generation that didn't take classes during COVID would have come of age. In other words, people would have started dancing tango or started tango just before COVID, and they would be getting good right now. They would be coming into the milongas. They're not going to come. The people who are in the milongas right now have been dancing for a long time. They might be very enthusiastic about tango right now, but they're just about to start dropping out. They're going to get into relationships where tango isn't convenient anymore. They're going to get jobs where tango doesn't, for whatever reason, they're going to burn out. And those people are going to stop being around, and there's not going to be anybody to replace them. Every professional, and actually not just every professional, anybody who knows how to do an entreportado should be teaching somebody who doesn't know how to do an entreportado right now. Tango should be as available to people as Starbucks. There should be a place to dance tango on every other street. If you know somebody who isn't dancing tango and you know how to do backward ochos, teach them how to do backward ochos. You do not have to teach them how to do it well. Tango, otherwise, is going to die. It has died before, and it will easily die again. Um, so, I think that every person a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't feel ready to teach." We don't have that choice. Just like in, let's say, the First World War, where soldiers didn't get adequate training before they were sent into the front lines. We don't have time. We don't have time for people to be ready to teach. Everybody needs to be teaching somebody or some group of people to dance right now, or tango is going to die. Um, it's not. I would love to be doing more myself. I do as much as I can. Maybe I could do more. In any case, I think I'm pretty good at teaching beginners, but even with me, we have this enormous rate of attrition. It's like I have a beginner class at Yale University with 60 people in it. How many people do I think are going to be dancing tango in 5 years? If I'm lucky, maybe five. I feel a lot like a general in World War One, where you have all the troops, maybe thousands of troops in the trenches, and then you have to tell them to go over the trench and go towards the enemy lines with all the machine guns. And you're sending these thousands of people out, and you know that the machine guns are going to mow them all down, and only maybe five are going to get through. That's what teaching a beginner class feels like. And I do it every week, again and again and again and again and again. I teach so many beginners, and I wish I could do more. I wish I could take them out for dinner. I wish I could do more to create community, because that is really what keeps people in tango. Uh, Tango is unfortunately my full-time job, fortunately and unfortunately, which means that I'm often tired and don't have time to do what really needs to be done. Because what really needs to be done is that you need to spend as much time creating a community as you do actually teaching. In other words, you need to get those people in that class to spend time with each other, to get to know each other, to eat together. Eating together is really important. There are lots of teachers that eat with their students after the class. I really admire that. And they are always trying to create community. That's the word that comes down to again and again and again. We're not teaching tango, we're building community. That's what works. And then it doesn't matter if somebody's the best dancer or if they have a bad night because they're hanging out with their friends anyways. The kind of tango that we teach, there are lots of people say, oh, you have to spend 2 years on walking. If somebody has the opportunity between going to the movies or going to dance salsa or going to play a game online at home and spending 2 years learning to walk, they're not going to spend 2 years learning to walk. Maybe some people that are attracted to that, but I think most people are not. I believe that if you teach maybe 5 very basic steps that go together well, that work together well, and tell them that's all they need to know, rather than telling them you will never know, you will have to work all your life. If you tell them that's all they need to know in order to be able to dance tango, and at this point I believe it is, then they will be much more likely to stick around. So when I went to Argentina the very first time in 2000, I think I had only been dancing a year, and I think I only knew about 8 steps or something. And I would dance in the afternoon milongas with old Argentine ladies. That was my target demographic. At least that's the demographic that I was most successful with. And I discovered that out of these steps that I thought I knew, I was actually only able to lead 5 because there were only 5 that they would follow. So when I came back from Argentina and eventually I started teaching, I taught those 5 steps. And since then, I've added another one, which is also super basic. So when I'm teaching, I tell people, today we learned this step and this step. And that means you only need to know 4 more steps in order to be able to dance tango anywhere else in the world. And that's what I tell them. And then I say in the intermediate class, we teach lots of combinations of these and maybe some other stuff as well. And in the advanced class, we teach stuff that you definitely do not need to know. So I think it's kind of true that if a leader, at least, knows how to do these 6 steps, they're a pretty decent dancer. So you're probably going to ask me what these 6 steps are, and I have to tell you that the names that I give them probably don't necessarily mean a lot to some people, but I can explain them. So one is backward ochos to the cross. But that's 2. Backward ochos, going to the cross from backward ochos. The resolution, that's going forward, side together, back. It's the end of the 8-count basic. The ocho cortado, which is really out of fashion, but I still teach it. A turn to the left from backward ochos that ends up in parallel system. It's very simple. You probably do it all the time and you probably don't even think about it. I think a lot of people don't actually teach it because it's something that people just naturally end up doing. And also a rock step turn that with the left leg that goes to the left, and I add an extra step and I end up in backward ochos. So those are my 6 essential steps. And then we do try to add in a little bit of close embrace and maybe we want 1 class of milonga if we have time. So that's my beginner class curriculum. But I'm not saying that mine is the way that everybody has to do it. That works for me. But the approach is, don't try and teach them, don't try and get their walking perfect, because it won't be. It'll take too long. And I actually think walking nicely is too advanced for beginners. What I want to do is get these people onto the floor right away today. Because if they're not on the dance floor today and paying admission into milongas, then tango's going to die. So we need hundreds of people today. And that's why it's a crisis. And that's why everybody needs to be doing something about it.
So, why is this COVID gap, which is like maybe 3 years at max? Why is that so significant?
Because beginner classes didn't happen at that time. And even if they were happening, a lot of people would have been afraid to go to them.
But
So
I mean, no, go ahead. Yeah.
why is it so significant? Okay, because we are used that we need to have constant replacements, because people eventually die, but before they die, they usually drop out of tango for so many different reasons. Why is it significant to have a gap? Because right now, if you're a beginner walking into a milonga is kind of a hostile environment, because the dancers are really good, because everybody going to a milonga right now has been dancing for like 6 years. There's no, it's kind of great for us because we go into a milonga and the level is so high, or at least they're very experienced. There are not that many really new dancers. We have a couple of followers who are new. We don't have any good leaders who are new. We don't have any good leaders who learned since the pandemic. We have good leaders that started before the pandemic and have continued to get better, but there's nobody since the pandemic. And what's going to happen is that, they're not going to be perceived the milonga as being a welcoming place, and they're going to not come. And then it's going to be a self-perpetuating thing where like the people in the milonga are going to get older and more experienced and less enthusiastic, and the beginners are just not going to be coming. Eventually maybe, but it's not a healthy situation. The milongas could go all could go out of business before then. Teachers could go out of business. The whole thing could die, could collapse.
So it's a bit like the trenches.
The trenches.
Well, like the trenches thing. If you stop sending these men in for a while, then maybe the machine guns will stop temporarily, but the enemy will try to
come out to advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't want to like really completely commit to that World War I analogy.
No.
I know that with some people, it's not going to be a very welcome analogy anyways. They're going to poke holes in it. I mean, it's not exact.
Sure. But
Hello, funny, I have to say, I know that in some countries, what I said is not true. For instance, I know that in Istanbul, the level in the milongas right now is lower than it was before because they have so many beginners. Because after COVID, so many people wanted to start dancing, and there are so many beginners, and it sounds wonderful, sounds great. And the level is not as high as it used to be, because it used to be a smaller percentage of beginners in the milongas, and the level was super high. And now I hear that the level is not quite as high because there's so many beginners, but those beginners are getting good fast because they're going into a very mature, high-level tango scene. It's not the same in the United States. Also, Turkey and the United States might have had a different attitude to COVID. In the United States, there's a lot of people who were very, very careful about it and really didn't want to come and be that close to people.
Yes, so there may be other factors as well at play here.
I can't say that I'm speaking for the whole world. I know that this is true in the United States, and I think it's true in Asia as well.
So maybe one more question, like it's also maybe a bit of a like a Captain Obvious kind of question, but why do you think only five of these 100 people really remain? Is there just so much competition from other things they could be doing, or is it too difficult for them, or is the community not welcoming enough? I mean, there must be reasons why you're insisting on this. You need to
All,
create a
all,
community,
all,
and
all of the above, and a lot of that is stuff that we can't do anything about. But you said, is the community not welcoming? And the community is not welcoming enough. I have gone to blues classes and people are swing classes, and people say, "Oh yeah, I tried tango." What's up with those people? They're so snobby. And we're probably not that snobby, but the more traditional we are, the more we conform to this code, which I love. I love this. I love the codes of tango where you finish a tango with somebody unless it's absolutely horrendous and the person's like doing something inappropriate. You try to do cabaseo, and yes, that sort of thing. Now, cabaseo is very unfriendly to beginners because they don't know how to do it, and also because the followers are not going to look at them because they're not the people who they normally dance with, and they're going to do it badly, and the followers just going to think that looks weird. I'm not going to dance with that guy. And the guys, like if it's a crowded milonga, they're not may not dance with a follower because they don't think that they can dance safely in a small space with them. Cabaseo is not going to work well for followers. Also, the follower beginners, they're just sitting there, sitting at the floor, never looking at the person they want to dance with, and they are just prey for the worst dancers in the room who will just go up to them and ask them. This tanda structure, I love the tanda structure. I'm a DJ, love it, but I often don't dance with somebody who I haven't seen before because I'm afraid that dancing 4 songs with them will be uncomfortable. And in other dances, it's just 1 song commitment. So you're much more open to dancing with other people. I love the codes. I love our traditions. They are really not serving us well in the sense of it makes us a snobby and unwelcoming community. We are not snobby and unwelcoming, but the structure makes us that way.
Yes.
And I don't know what the answer is. I'm too old generation to say, let's change it today. But if somebody said, let's change it today, I would understand why.
Yes, and I think you were pretty clear earlier in this video about that like anyone can bring in new people into tango just by teaching them whatever they can, and maybe that will ultimately bring in some more people.
Yeah,
because it's more publicity and
because we need 1 million people to get 2,000 dancers.
Yes. Well, thanks. I think your explanations were really clear, and well, thanks for this video. And if I have another question, I'll surely come back to you again. And for those who haven't seen the first video, I think it gives some context to some things that have been said here, considering that Robin teaches at universities and teaches a lot of beginners and a lot of young people. So it's I think he really had the kind of profile to talk about this. So thanks for this.